Welcome to Sober.Coffee, a weekly coffee chat sharing experience, strength, and hope for anyone on the sober road to recovery. You can download Sober.Coffee weekly on all podcast platforms and check us out on Instagram at Sober.Coffee Podcast and on Twitter at Sober.Coffee Pod. To learn more about us and to help support these sessions, visit online at Sober.Coffee. Here are your hosts, two guys on their own path to recovery, Mike and Glenn. Let's join them at the coffee shop.
Good morning, Glenn.
Hey, morning, Mike. This is becoming a habit, man. Weekly coffees. Love it. Chatting about sobriety and chatting about experience, strength, and hope.
I dragged a friend along again today.
Oh, I love friends.
Yeah.
Dragged.
Hey,
I like it.
All
Look
right,
what the
Lynda.
cat dragged in again today.
Look, yeah.
I got dragged in. Good morning, Glee to the double N and my smiling
Glee to
Mike.
the
I love
double
you.
N.
Glee to the double N. It's a happy, joyous, and free. It's a beautiful day today.
So when I was coming in this morning, I was thinking of, we opened the show with you two going in and out,
Yeah,
intake,
love it,
outtake,
man.
whatever you call that. But I was jamming the Cheap Trick in my head. Surrender.
That's
but
one of my
don't give
favorite words, man.
yourself
Surrender.
away.
All right, wait.
Hello.
All right, so let me guess. That's what we're going to talk about today, Cheap Trick?
Yeah, no, surrender.
Oh, surrender.
It's
Okay, I
such a
get
cheap
it.
trick.
I get it. I'm a little,
That's a cheap trick.
I'm a little slow
cheap
this morning.
trick.
I get it. All right, man. So I actually like the word surrender. So, I'm old, but for many years of my life, 50 years, I looked at surrender as a failure. Growing up, you hear about the wars. You're taught in school about different countries surrendering and the white flags, and I surrender. To me, that was a failure. You wanted to do everything that you could do before you surrender, right? So it was a negative term. But one of the things I think we're going to talk about today, sometimes we script this stuff out a little bit, and sometimes we're off the cuff, and this is probably more off the cuff. But what surrender means, right, for us in sobriety. What that looks like. So I think we're just going to spend, again, we're trying to keep it to 18 minutes. What that means to us is on the sober path of recovery.
Well, I think it means so much more than what I came into the program thinking it meant, because by definition, surrender means to cease resistance to an enemy or opponent and submit to their authority.
Ooh,
right?
Yikes. Yeah. I don't like that.
I don't like that
No.
at all. Right.
Yeah, so do you have another, definition?
Yeah, let's redefine
Because that
that,
was
Mike.
scary.
Actually, I do, because
Okay.
Wikipedia,
All right, yeah.
when they talk about surrender in recovery, and
Okay.
if you could do
Good.
Wikipedia,
Yeah.
and that's a complete understanding that the obsession is no longer mine.
Right. Oh, boy,
Wait
I
a
love
second.
that.
So
Love it.
so you don't have a computer in front of you, and you're just spouting out Wikipedia definitions of
I
surrender.
may,
I think
I may
somebody
have
did
a,
some
I may have a
research.
cheat sheet.
Yeah, I did some research there.
There we go.
Yeah.
There we go. Okay.
It's the surrender is, I love that, because then, especially that Wikipedia is, there's a sense of freedom.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
And it's so weird how when we surrender, we win.
Right.
We can win with that white flag because we're not fighting the fight anymore.
Well, it's just a collision in my brain, because how do you move forward by taking a step back?
Yeah.
It doesn't make logical sense to me. or
But surrender
didn't.
doesn't necessarily mean a step back. It could be another step forward.
That's right.
But I mean, that word submit. I mean,
Submit.
I mean, that's the ego thing in me. And that's the reason why I struggled so long on surrender is I didn't want to submit to anything else but myself. I knew it all. I was the smartest guy in the room. I'll figure this out. Because in business, I was a solution guy. So I'm thinking, well, if I can do there, I can do this. It's totally different. So I like the word submit. So, I can align definitely with that definition of surrender.
Yeah. I submit was not anything, again, that I did. I mean, it was much like you. I was the shell answer guy. I had the answers. I was creating my own life. And it was based on my project plan and my execution of that plan, and everything was rolling along smoothly, as would be seen by the outside world. But my world was crumbling because I had the weight of the responsibility of all that on my shoulders, and giving that responsibility up, not just the drink, but my life in its entirety has been a tremendous I mean, it's changed the course of my life. It's changed the course of my stress level. It's changed the course of my outlook and my acceptance. I mean, there's just so many benefits.
Oh, and kind of in that line is we lost control. And so, that's another part of surrender is losing control. We lost control, so now we surrender to that, and that we try to fix, manage, and control everything in our lives, and realizing that it's not our responsibility to do that. We have no power over other people, places, and things. And then submitting to a higher power of goodness and love. It is such a freeing thing, and learning so much about giving, submitting to love and to goodness, and that's what I get out of it.
I love that.
So as I think of the word surrender, I mean, I have a point in time, and I'll just spend 30 seconds, kind of sharing.
30 minutes, yeah?
Yeah, probably.
I'm sorry.
No, I got the clock. It's probably going to be 30 minutes. But so it was 2014. I mean, I was the revolving door. I was the relapse king. I would get 3 months sober, relapse, 6 months sober, relapse. And I got to the point where I was sober 95% of the time. But that 5% was killing me.
Yeah.
What hospital, what damage, I would start to build things up and in, 2 days tear down everything all over again.
And I remember seeing you come in the rooms just so defeated.
I mean, I
wanted to smack you.
I wish you had.
I think you did get smacked, though, kind of.
I did. There are people.
Thank God for people that call you out on your bullshit.
They did, and so it was September of 2014. I went to a work conference out in Palm Springs, and I relapsed on the way out there. I had 3 months of sobriety. I relapsed on the way out there. And it was a 7-day conference. The first 3 days I remember drinking. And the last 4 days I was in total blackout. Yeah. So I got to the point, I shared this story before, the only way I could stop was go to the hospital. So I started in the hospital in Palm Springs. I was in 6 hospitals across the country in 1 week. And then I landed up in an 8-day detox. That's how bad I was. 8-day detox. And I had this program I was going into, and I remember it like it was yesterday. I sat on the floor of my counselor, Matt's office, and this program I was going into, it was going to be another treatment program. It landed up being a 4-month program, right? I was sober living and treatment. And so I sat on this program. I sat on this floor on a Friday afternoon, and my tank was at 0. And it was that point in time where I looked at him, and I said, dude, I will do anything you tell me to do. I just cannot take another drink. And that was my point of surrender. And it's funny because that sounds cool and that might sound sexy and that might be like a film moment with the light shining down on me. And so what does that look like, right? So that means, what do I do that night, right? And he says, okay, this is what we're going to do today. And so there were 8 guys on the program with me there, And so I did exactly what they told me to do. They said, well, tonight we're going to have movie night. I'm like, I can handle that, man. I surrender. I'm going to do whatever. I'm going to movie night. The next day, they pushed it. They pushed the limit, and they said, we're going to go for a walk. I'm like, oh, I don't want to go for a walk. But I surrendered now, right? So I'm going to go for a walk. So things were going well for a week, and then he said, hey, we were sitting down one-on-one. He goes, hey, we need to start working on this because, the relationship with your daughters that you have burned is really, I can tell you bring it up all the time. He says, I think we need to start working on the fact that you're probably never going to see your daughters again. Now, at that point, surrender became real, and again, I immediately took back my will. I'm like, that's not acceptable to me. We got to do this, and let's get him on the phone, and let's go, and I'm start barking orders to him. He's like, I thought you surrendered. And he caught me, and he goes, this is what you need to do. And so that's that word submit, Mike, and I'm like, okay, let's do it. And that kind of was a key click. And so it's funny because I still, to this day, over 6 years, almost 7 years later, I still surrender to that dude. I'm still connected with him. I still take direction from him. I take direction from this program. I take direction from my higher power. I take direction from the people in this program. and from others. And it's amazing what I do today. I surrender on a daily basis. I get outside of myself, on a daily basis. And I think surrender is one of the key parts of, where I'm at today and why I'm here today, because I am no longer in that driver's seat.
I can relate to that with the children, and surrendering them, because there was a point where they wanted nothing to do with me, and I wanted to grab them by the shoulder. I wanted to call them, let's fix, we got to fix this. They got to understand. And thank God for sponsoring people in this program that taught me that I needed to let them go. I needed to surrender them to the higher power and let him take care of it. And I'm so glad I did that, because it really made such a difference. And then make it, it isn't about me, and I'm so blessed by that. I'm so grateful that I was able to surrender them and let him take care, because he did it way better than anything I could ever imagine.
Right. And there's a line for me that is read at the beginning of the meetings I go to, and it simply says, if you want what we have and are willing to go to any length to get it, then
Take
surrender. That's
steps,
what jumps into my head. Then surrender and listen to us and follow the way. Glenn, when you were sharing your experience, it jumped out at me that everybody's story, Lynda's story is different than Glenn's story is different than Mike's. I just kind of want to say to the people that are joining us for coffee this morning, your story can be any one of those. It could be your own. It could be a blended version. I guess the point I'm trying to make to myself is, it's okay. We all ended up at the same intersection today. We're speaking, you're listening, Lynda's sharing, we're growing. We're all at the same intersection at this very moment in time. It doesn't matter if we've never relapsed before, if we did. I relapsed 1,000,000 times in 46 years. Every time I told myself I wasn't going to do it again, and I did it again, right? But my treatment career, I was like one and done. I mean, I was just so beat up, so devastated that, I came out of there prepared to do whatever anybody told me to do, so I never went back to where it was. And that's my story. You can have a story like that. You can have a story of whatever your story is.
Your story is your story.
Your story is your story.
Right. The one thing about surrender, and I just kind of jotted it down here, is, for me, right, I am, and somebody said this and finally clicked. He said, Glenn, you can't fix the problem with the same brain that created it.
Right.
And I'm like, dude, that just made so much sense. And again, what we talked about, before about, surrender and asking for help, to me, that was a failure. To me, that was admitting that you are less than, when in reality, it's probably the biggest, strongest move I have ever made in my life, is that day sitting on that floor on a Friday afternoon, and I said, you know what, I will do whatever you tell me to do. Right? And I still surrender.
Yeah.
It's interesting when you said about the failure, because we don't do a lot of things because we have a fear of failure, and there really is no failure. The only failure is not trying, right. Because either we succeed or we learn from it.
Right.
There's no failing unless we don't try. So anyone out there that you're not sure, give it a try.
Right. Anyway. And it always comes back to team sports, right? So, even golf is team sport, right? You've got your caddy. The caddy's telling you recommending what to do. You've got tools that you can use when you're out there on the golf course. But I think of raw team sports like basketball, football. You're dependent. You're surrendering and being dependent on somebody else to play their role. And because you can't be the rebounder and the small guard at the same time, it takes different talents on the court, and I guess the reason I bring it up is because I'm surrendering to somebody else, but I'm surrendering to somebody who's got experience, and I'm just soaking up what they're sharing with me. And now guess what? I get to do the same thing. I can't tell somebody how to be sober for the rest of their life. I have no idea. I'm not there. I have no idea, but I can tell somebody how to be sober for the amount of time.
How I stay sober. I can't tell them how they can, but I can show them how I can.
That's right. It's funny from an ego standpoint. I'm not sure if it's ego or whatever, but for many years I said, you know what, Lynda And Mike, they're not going to understand what I'm going through. I
Right.
am so
That's
unique.
different,
I am
right?
so special. They will not be able to relate. And yet,
Yeah.
there is not a meeting that I go to. There is not a story in the big book that I read. There isn't a chapter or a page in the big book that I read where I don't look at that and I'm like, that is exactly me. So I'm not as unique and special as I
Right.
thought, right?
We're special, all right.
Yeah, totally.
Where's
But,
that short pause?
that's right. But I sit there and say, I just the similarities, and I finally had to get out of it. And I'm like, I'm just like everybody else. I aligned, and the biggest thing is I finally got out of my ego, and I'm like, I'm going to listen to that dude. He was sober yesterday, right? He didn't have to stand at the gas station at 5:45 a.m. Can't wait till they sell liquor at 6. He didn't have to do that. And he got through amazing situations, or she got through amazing situations in her life, and she didn't have to drink.
Right.
I'm like, maybe I should. I just had enough proof.
Right.
I had enough proof.
Right.
Literally, like 150 proof.
Yeah, right.
He
It's
went
in
there.
the pudding.
He went
The
there.
proof is in
He
the
went
pudding.
there.
I had to go there. I
Right,
wasn't
right,
planning on
right.
it, but I went there.
I remember looking for the highest proof alcohol.
Yeah,
Whatever was
totally.
Give me
So-
the buzz the fastest.
Yeah, from a hope standpoint, kind of wrap this up a little bit. I was able to get outside of my head and say, I've had enough. And then let the miracle happen. There's a guy in our program, that says, stick around, surrender until the miracle happens. And if you really do that, you'll be amazed. In fact, as the promises says, you'll be amazed before we are halfway through.
All right.
I don't-
But the promise is coming from pages 84 and 85 of the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. But it wraps up, it says, they will always materialize if we work for them. So
Awesome.
we do have work to do. Hey, this has been a great session.
Linda, thanks for jumping in
Lynda,
again.
Thank you
thanks to
for
see you.
having
Talking
me.
about
I
surrender.
love this place, man.
Hope to have you back again.
Okay,
So
thank
now
you.
I have to listen
Thank
to
you.
that Cheap Trick song, Surrender.
Yeah,
the
I was
way
going to
home.
have that in my
Let's
head
take
all
'em
day
out.
today.
There you go.
But don't give yourself
There
away.
you go. Thanks, buddy.
Thanks for joining us for today's coffee chat. To contact the show, email us at podcast@Sober.Coffee. If you need immediate help, the AA hotline is 800-839-1686. The National Suicide Prevention Hotline is 800-273-8255. Remember, Mike and Glenn are sharing their own journey on the path to recovery. Any suggestions, medical or otherwise, are their own experiences and should not be viewed as professional advice. See you next week, and remember, there is a solution.
Stay safe in the city of Chicago.